Hello and welcome to the Algoritmi channel. In the last couple of videos, I created a basic beginner's Python course. Now, while that's a great starting point to start learning programming, I thought I'd create a video and present some pathways to you which you can follow to become a great programmer. So here's 4 of them. Let's get into it. So before we start, I just wanted to say that the pathways I'll present in this video are created for different groups of people that I will mention. You can choose whichever you want, as all of them will lead into becoming a great programmer. I also wanted to say that these are some basic steps just to get started, and each of these pathways could get their own video going into the details. And with that, let's get started with pathway number 1, the web developer. Alright, for people who aim to become web developers, I recommend to start light and learn web design first. So basically, just start out by learning HTML and CSS just to create some semi-responsive web pages. And after that, you should probably learn JavaScript just to expand your possibilities of what you can do in a browser. And this is where it starts getting tricky, because JavaScript is a full-fledged programming language. It's a derivation of the Java programming language, meaning that at this point, you can start learning algorithms and data structures and give yourself superpowers. And the more you know in that, the better programmer you become, and therefore your web pages will start looking better. But what I would recommend for people who are not majoring in computer science is to learn some basic JavaScript at first at this point and do some basic stuff with it, and after that start learning algorithms and data structures alongside a general purpose programming language that can also be used to create a backend for the website. Examples like Java, Python, and C++ come to mind. I would learn them in exactly that order I mentioned. And after that, it would be the time to start expanding your possibilities towards a full-stack web developer. Start by learning PHP and Node.js, which will both be a piece of cake because of your knowledge of algorithms and data structures, and also your experience that you have with your general purpose programming language. And also, don't forget to learn SQL alongside that and learn how to use it in your backend app. Now, I always recommend learning every skill by projects and doing a lot of projects alongside your learning, but after learning these skills, I recommend doing a couple more projects, building websites front end to back end, just to put them on GitHub and make your portfolio stronger. In my opinion, learning to work with frameworks like Angular and Django should all come after you have gained all of this knowledge that I've mentioned up till now, because they will become a lot easier to learn. And also, you'll pretty much know how they should work. Learning about some web protocols and standards would also be a great idea at this point. And of course, people will also talk about learning UI and UX and whatnot, but in my opinion, those stuff aren't as enough as technical that I would talk about them in this video. And yeah, after learning all of those skills, one can call you a web developer. Alright, let's get into pathway number 2, which is the software developer. Now, this pathway is what I would recommend for people who want to learn how to create desktop and mobile apps. First off, to become a software developer, you should start by learning your first general purpose programming language. It could be any language, but for people who are not professionally majoring in computer science or software engineering, I would recommend starting out light and learning a higher level programming language like Java or Python. Personally, I'd recommend both of them. And also, I would recommend learning algorithms and data structures alongside those so you can combine the knowledge that you gain from both of those and do exercises from algorithms and data structures in your general purpose programming language, which will all give you some experience. And having learned these two makes you a general programmer. After that, it's time to learn some programming paradigms and understanding them. Object-oriented programming and functional programming are the 2 most important ones that you need to learn. After that, you can learn about the GUI packages of the languages that you know and do some projects just to gain some experience. Or you can directly look at the kind of apps you want to create and learn specific skills for those. For example, if you want to become a mobile developer, you should learn Swift for iPhones and Kotlin or Dart for Android devices. And after all of this, if you want to become a good software developer, you should learn how a computer works on a lower level. I'd recommend learning C++ and C, and I say C++ at first because it can look pretty damn high level these days, so it might be easier for you to implement the stuff you know in C++ coming from a higher level programming language. And then you can learn how you can combine C and C++ with your higher level programming languages to use them to do the heavy lifting in your programs, because they're very efficient, and use your higher level language to create the UI. Or if you're like me and you enjoy working at the lower level, create everything in a lower level programming language. Do it all in C++ and create your UI with Qt or something. And that's when you're a software developer. And with that, we're moving on to pathway number 3, which is software engineer. Now, software engineering is a big field and it differs from being a software developer. As a software engineer, you're mostly concerned with designs, design patterns, efficiency, reliability, and quality of big software projects. As a software engineer, you're mostly the designer rather than the coder. Now, it doesn't mean that a software engineer doesn't know how to code. In fact, the best programmers that I know are software engineers. It's just that software engineering is one step beyond software development. So you'll pretty much need to learn all the skills that a software developer has just in another order and go beyond that. If you're aiming to become a software engineer, I'd recommend learning programming in a bottom-up approach. Meaning, start with a lower level programming language, I'd recommend C, and work your way up to C++, and then go to the higher level programming languages like Java and Python. This will give you a profound knowledge and understanding of how computer systems works on low level, which is very important for software engineers. Now, in between learning all of those programming languages, you'll also need to learn about computer hardware, and I'd even recommend doing some small projects in system assembly just to have the experience of that as well, and just to understand the low level better. Now, as a software engineer, you shouldn't be bound to packages or anything to do your projects, but it makes sense not to invent the wheel every single time. And that's why now would be the time to learn about packages and what other things the programming languages have to offer. As a software engineer, you should also be a master of design and design patterns. And there are various ways and sources to learn those, but the Gang of 4 design patterns would be a good starting point. I'd also recommend learning some math as a software engineer, just some linear algebra and calculus, just so you never get stuck if you ever have to do anything mathematical in your software project. And with all of these skills, you deserve the right to be called a software engineer. And that brings us to pathway number 4, the last pathway, the computer scientist. Now, computer science includes everything that has anything to do with computers. So you could imagine there's a lot to do there. At first, I would start learning math, because in computer science, you can never know enough math, and that's because it's a derivation of the field of mathematics. So learn a lot of linear algebra, calculus, probability theory, and discrete mathematics. And yes, all of those are used in computer science. Next, or at the same time, I'll learn algorithms and data structures alongside C and C++. And after that would be the time to learn algorithmic graph theory and some basics of software engineering, and also something about computer hardware. After that, I will learn about networks and web, including all the protocols, and then you would get into the theoretical computer science. There, you'll learn all about theory of languages, efficiency of algorithms, and complexity theory of problems, and you'd also learn about the theory of automata, and much, much more. And with all of that knowledge and the experience you gained while learning, you have the foundations to specialize yourself in any field of computer science. So this would be the point where you decide what you want to specialize in. Now, to become a computer scientist or software engineer, I would honestly recommend attending a university or college program if you have the access to that, because that would just make your life much easier. You'll have supervision and you'll also get a degree at the end. And those are my pathways for different types of programmers. I hope it provided value to you. Let me know in the comments down below what pathway you're going to choose. I personally chose pathway number 4 throughout a university program. And at the end, I'm Algoritmi. Thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to the channel for more. See you in the next one.